problems. Now we are back at the headquarters, and now we are ready to dispense upon more knowledge and things of that nature, right? All right, so upon the topic of depression and shit like that, right? We live in a society today where a lot of people are depressed. A lot of people are, battling thoughts. They have feelings on their mind that they believe has more power over them. Like if you think about what depression is, it just means that there's something that's going on in the person's life that they view or believe or look at as overwhelming. What's going on in awareness piece, brother? So when it comes to depression, a lot of people believe that, there's something going on in their life, there's something going on in their mind, there's something that people can't take power and control over and transform. Because as an alchemist, not only internally, but also externally, you have the power to take power and control and transform not only yourself, but also things outside of you and stuff like that, just by the power of co-creating your reality. So not only do we co-create our reality with our reality by how we participate based upon our mental patterns, based upon what we observe, but we also co-create our reality based upon our internal world, our kingdom of heaven and stuff like that, right? So a person may be experiencing certain things that create depression. Really just a perspective that generates the emotion, that generates the perspective, that generates experience of depression and things like that. So me personally, I don't really believe in depression because it's like a person first has to view reality as something that sucks. A person has to view themselves as not being able to be, co-create their reality, because the only reason a person might be depressed is because there's something they can't change. And look, sometimes reality solid and shit like that, there's certain things that may be in our way. A person might owe a bunch of money. A person might have a bunch of things going on externally and things like that. But that's not a reason necessarily for a person to allow these things to clutter their perception or create this view on their mind that whelms them into the state of depression, because there's someone else out there that's going through the same situation and things like that. But there's someone that's going through that situation and they're handling it, and there's another person that's not dealing with that situation and they're not handling depression is just a problem that goes on and on unattended. And depression is like a symptom of something. It's really a symptom of an internal pattern where a person has a problem, but they're not dealing with that problem. And it could be an internal problem, it could be an external problem. That just depends on the individual's discernment and things like that, right? But all about having a belief system that you honestly can solve any problem you have. It's honestly just staying optimistic, even though there's something that might be really, really negative happening in reality. A lot of things can supposedly make people depressed. I can sit here and list them and things of that nature, but at the end of the day, it's different for everybody. But at the end of the day, it's really just a problem that's being proportion that a person is not taking power and control over and transforming. Because there's something depressing someone, like being depressed is like something is above the person or on their mind, and it's causing them to carry this mental weight. But a lot of this mental is just perceived. And if it's perceived, then you can change how you perceive it. You don't have to allow it to affect you in the same manner and things like that, right? It's like a lot of the times people have a pattern that doesn't allow them to actually take power and control, not only of their internal reality, but also the external reality. And sometimes the external reality, there's things going on that, appear solid, appear physical, but we can also control our state of being just via our observation. Like one person can look at a bill and be like, damn, I owe 6,000 and get stressed, start to get panic, start to worry. The other person might be like, you know what? I might not have the money right now, but I'm going to have the money next week or something. But it's purely just about the trajectory that a person created with their mind. One person focused on the solution with their mind. The other person continued to focus on the problem, and they created this perception on their mind that the problem is so bad, so overwhelming to the point that they can't take care of it, to the point that they have to retreat to a corner somewhere, really in their mind, because they chose not to view the solution. They just chose to focus on the problem and allow the problem to accumulate internally as a feeling and shit like that, right? But that's just a part of life, like, right? It's just a part of fucking life, right? It's like we live in a society where pretty much most people is depressed, supposedly. Most people is suicidal, want to hurt themselves, want to kill themselves. Understandable, and things like that. Especially if you're a male, especially if you're a man. Hey, a lot of men are in this type of predicament. But what I would encourage the men to do, what I would ask the men to do, is just to find a purpose in life, to find something that can elevate them beyond what is perceived externally, something that you can actually live for hatred, because you can hate the world all you want to, but if you're in that state of being, a person is in that state of being of hate, then that's going to be their whole existence. Like I mean, and hate is just an energy, and it can be a powerful energy, because if you hate the some of the things that I prefer to hate is not external people, places, and things. I prefer to hate the internal thought, the internal feeling, the internal disposition that can put me in a situation that I don't like. Because at the end of the day, if a person is depressed, chances are they're doing shit they don't fucking like. They're doing some shit that they hate. But what got a person from point A to point B, right? So you have to take accountability. A person has to take responsibility of what's going on within their mind that led to that perception, that led to that travel. It's a process and things like that, right? For a person to even be in a situation they hate, there's something process that was in their mind that led them from point A to point B. Now, a person just has to change that internal perception that they're self-subjugating themselves to. Because everyone has like a mental avatar. Everyone has a mentality that they render reality through and shit like that, right? Now, some people just, happen to be born in circumstances, situations that, where they adopt this mentality of the people around them, that, hey, the world is bad. I hate the world. Problems are bigger than me. And look, a lot of these things is subconscious, because I honestly don't think anyone wants to sit there and just tell themselves, hey, life sucks. The problem is bigger than me and things like that. But that's self-generated perception. And if a person has spent so much time in that psychological conditioning, if a person has spent so much time within that mental condition, then it's like they will just replicate it, duplicate it, and recreate it with their mind and participate in things that agree with that pattern, because everyone operates from a bias, right? Where it's like, I'm biased towards my ability to create a solution, where a person can literally become depressed in, where a person can literally view life as too difficult to live. The thing though, for those people out there that think like that, your thoughts and feelings come with you everywhere you go. So it's like you got to ask yourself, do you want to be in a state of being that's depressing? Because honestly, no one wants to be around a person that's depressing. Like, yeah, life is hard. Yeah, life is difficult. And I'm not saying that you need to, but what I am saying is it's like the state of being, the mentality itself to actually generate solutions. That's a very attractive thing, because everyone has problems. Everyone's experiencing problems in life. But some people choose to proceed to create solutions. Some people just stay in the problem. And here's the thing. It's like people think that their problems are going to go away one day, but because the problem wasn't a problem, it was really the mentality that viewed a problem without the solution, because problems are just a part of life and shit like that, right? But you can see in society, a lot of people that are celebrated is problem solvers. I mean, for God's sake, the government is trying to solve problems all the time, maybe in an effective way, but it's like they're still trying to solve a problem and shit like that. Now, I don't support the government, blah, blah, but I'm just saying, why not create your own consultation agency and start giving the government solutions for the shit? They might pay you pretty well too. Who the fuck knows? But all I'm saying is that this whole mentality of depression, I hate myself, I don't want to be in this life, that's coming with you everywhere you go, bro. That's like, I'm a believer in reincarnation, for example. A person can stay in that mentality that created the problem, but it's not going nowhere. Wherever you go, that mind comes with you. So do you want to live in a body that honestly, where your spirit is subjugated and is in a mentality that it honestly believes that it doesn't have power and control over itself and its external reality? People like that just subjugate themselves to their own and create their own hell in their own life, and then they blame external things why their life sucks. Oh, it must be the government. Shit, it must be my mama. Shit, it must be my daddy. Shit, it must be my cousin. Man, it must have been the neighbor yesterday. He looked at me pretty bad. I think the neighbor cursed me or whatever like that, right? Because that's a point of view that always creates a problem. But you also have a point of view that creates a solution where a person is balanced. Because that's kind of like spookism a little bit. But here's the thing, though. The only reason I said that is because people actually will blame external, which is normal. It's totally human. It's totally normal to blame the external world, supposedly. Now, that's just the mentality that people come from and shit like that. But to take power and control over the problem is telling yourself the problem is not bigger than me. It's telling yourself that, hey, I can this problem as an equal and solve this problem, so I can no longer have to suffer in that problem. And then guess what? When you deal with that problem, you're also going to meet other people that had these same problems that you could have had, and you could provide them with aid. You can provide them with the benefit that whatever it got you out of it, and that can add value in your life, and that can add value in their life and stuff like that, right? Like depression, for example. Like, man, a person can just go to the gym and work. Supposedly, that's been proven to actually release the what do they call it? They call it the hope molecule, like from the muscular system and shit like that, when you exert effort and energy, it releases, some forms of chemicals to assist with not being so, right? So that's one thing a person can do. A person can just go to the gym and go work out. But more importantly than that, it's just really about having a purpose. Because it's like when you have a purpose that's bigger than you, you're almost sacrificing, yeah, endorphins and shit like that, right? So it's like when a person just has a purpose that's bigger than them, it's like you're almost sacrificing your mind for that purpose. Let's say a person wants to become a man, I don't know, XYZ, whatever, right? For you to get to that goal, you have to process of self-transformation, meaning that you honestly transform your mind to get that goal that you want to play out and shit like that, right? Where now, as you go down a line that goal, as you go down that, from A to B, a parts of you have to change so you can get to that goal, right? So it's like when you have a purpose, you're undergoing a process of self transformation as well. So it's literally transmuting what's on your mind that didn't benefit you, and then adding in certain things that can assist you going down that to go down that goal and shit like that, right? So it's like having goals, having a purpose. Because if a person is wandering aimless, a person is, they wake up in the morning and they don't know what to do, some set the intention for you, right? It could be social media. It could be the intention that a person, failed at when they was younger. Because a lot of the times people have certain passions, motivations that they honestly couldn't do just because the environment allowed around them didn't allow, and it could subjugate you to play out in particular patterns. A person can have a parent that want them to take on their business when they grow up and shit like that, right? So they have to put their personality, their character to the side and play out what that parents want them to do. But that's gonna make that person depressed because their spirit hasn't incarnated on earth to do that. Their spirit is here to expand its awareness on something else. So a person has to know themselves to a degree. A person to know, what their characteristics is, their aspects is. How do they personally move? Like when you go to the jungle, you don't. I mean, I don't go to the jungle, nothing like that. But I'm just saying, like, you're not gonna see a cheetah trying to act like a fucking mouse. You're not gonna see trying to act like a zebra. Animals know themselves. Animals know species. You have to know your own species. Like you have to know who you are and stuff like that. So you can just be yourself. But a lot of times, just being ourselves becomes difficult to the resistance that we may have faced about ourselves and about who we are at a young age. So we decide, okay, you know what, let's not be ourselves and let's take on these characteristics. Let's take on these aspects that a lot of the times we develop from our environment just as a form of self-protection and shit like that, right? Where a person just is trying to protect themselves and survive and shit like that. This survival-based mindset and stuff like that. So it's like, basically the people that are depressed, quote unquote, it's like they're just trying to survive and shit. And it's understandable and things like that. But if a person chooses to stay in that mentality, they will accumulate more of that mentality. That will get bigger and bigger and bigger. Because honestly, like something eventually is gonna happen for a person to realize that, damn, I can't put myself in this space of depression. Because not only am I generating more external problems, not only am I not generating the solutions to my problems, but I'm also attracting more thoughts and feelings that have to do with that state of being, and I'm also attracting more problems that have to do with my state of being externally as well, right? So it's like, man, it's like two opposing things where a person can be extremely magnetic to others, or a person can be extremely like unmagnetic, or whatever the opposite word is. But here's the thing: we're always magnetic. We're always attracting something based upon our state of being and just based upon how we participate with reality, right? So it's like participate in reality in a way where you can actually experience what you want, you can actually have what you need and stuff like that. But it all starts with this internal resolution that, hey, you know what? I have the answer to my problems, I have the keys to the solution. I may just lack the current perception that can create the trajectory and the route for me to do it, for me to have that, etc., whatever that may be, right? So that's the thing. I personally don't believe in depression because depression is just a byproduct of something that people allow to exist in their lives. Like I know people say like my depression is real, and it is real to you, but it's just on the mind. And what's on the mind that's causing the person to be depressed, a mentality that they are subjugated under. So it's like, why not just change the mind? Why not just transmute whatever a person has on their mind? This way you can meet everyday challenges, from an optimistic space, or just a more open space. Okay, you're at least open to the solution, where at least a person is not necessarily subjecting themselves, bombarding themselves with a bunch of thoughts and feelings, where it's like, where it's like you literally blow the solution out of the view, out of the possibility, and the solution can be right in front of us a lot of the times. But it's like A person might create a mind that doesn't allow them to motherfucking, view the solution, which is just crazy and shit like that, right? Man, it's wild. It's wild out here. And that's the thing, right? It's like either a person will find something to do with themselves or the world's going to do something with you, pretty much, right? It's like the government, they got jobs for people, a person might end up joining the military. Point is, if a person doesn't take ownership of their life, of their mind, they will end up in more places doing more things they don't like. What's at the end of that road? I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to, remove myself from this plane, because that's not going to do anything. That's just adding more fuel to the fire. Physical body gone, no problem, man. You go to your soul body. But if your soul body's fucked too, oh man, guess what? You want to come back into a worse situation, worse circumstance again. So might as well just start the process of taking ownership, taking power and control over. This way, external circumstances, situations is not blown out of proportion, and you can take control over these things too. And here's the thing: we live in a, I can seriously, we live in a fucked up world. Blah blah blah. Yeah, the world's fucked up, but you might be the only person in the world that's not fucked up. And people pay people that are not, I don't want to say fucked up. Fucked up is a good or bad. Trauma happens to everybody and shit like that. But it's honestly about healing that trauma. It's honestly about letting go of that trauma. It's honestly letting go of something that doesn't serve you any longer. This way you make yourself available for something else that could serve you and things like that, right? When you put yourself in that space, you attract by opening yourself to new possibilities, to new opportunities, by just clearing out what's on your mind and shit like that, right? That's why meditation is great. A lot of spiritual practices is great, but it can't just be wishful thinking. It has to be like application on the practical level and shit like that, right? So it's like, yeah, depression is very real on the mental level, but it's not something that a person has to live with. A person might choose to live with depression, but it's not something that a person actually has to put up with, shit like that. That's why I don't believe in depression. Like, man, people are depressed for some crazy reasons, man. Someone might look in the mirror and be like, damn, and they might not even be ugly at all, and they just literally believe that they're ugly. It's like, for what? Crazy stuff, man. Crazy stuff. And it's like, man, like a child will be depressed if they don't go to the candy store and get candy. That will make them go into a fit of rage, and now they're pissed off their parent, cussing everybody out. It's like, well, that's anger, so that's a little different and shit like that. But just the point is, man, like, problems always exist, but we have to meet the problems with a solution. Otherwise, the problem will just continue to exist, and shit like that. And if you're a problem solver, if you become a problem solver, if you take ownership and accountability of what's going on in your life, not only do you become a more impactful, powerful individual in your life, but you also become more powerful and impactful in the life of others. Because when you solve your own problem, you can just pack that problem into a solution, into a service, into a product that benefits others as well. So it's like everybody wins and shit like that, right? But yeah, man, I think that's all. I think people just have depression and suicidal thoughts just because, like, they believe they can't take power and control over their reality, not internally or externally. But a person always has access, but a person just has to utilize the access that they have, shit like that. So utilize the access that you have, right? Don't view it as you have no access. No, you have access, and the person is utilizing it in some way, shape, or form, right? With that being said, everybody, that's all, man. Just had to do a second live just because my phone turned off. My way back home. I'm gonna see y'all motherfucking tomorrow. Real shit.